Good morning and welcome to the Oasis Center for Spiritual Living, where we come together as one, providing spiritual tools for daily living. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Tucker. I am the senior minister here at the Oasis, and I always like to introduce the team that God has provided me because I couldn't do this without them. So let me start out with my faithful assistant, Faith. Oops, wrong one. My Faith, how you've changed.
Wow.
Faith has been my assistant basically since the day she was born. Her dad was working the soundboard at the time. She was about 3 weeks old when she first came to church, and he would hold her in one hand and do the soundboard in the other hand. And then as soon as she was able to crawl, he let her go, and she came right up on the stage like she belonged there. So I just left her there. I had a portable mic at that time, so I could just step over her. But we put her on the podium, and I'm pretty sure we put her on the podium when we did announcements. And I'm pretty sure that people paid more attention to the announcements because of her cute little face. And then as she got older, she and her sister would do affirmation cards at the end as an usher function. And so she's pretty much grown up in our church. She grew up 6 blocks away from my house, and her dad was a tow truck driver. And so when he would do out-of-town tows, he would drop the girls at my house. Well, I'm a project person. I always have projects going on. And so I got to see Faith's work. So when she was 14 and a half and said, I want a real job this year, I hired her for my ozone business. And then when we went live here for the pandemic, I asked her if she'd be my ministerial assistant. And of course, she said yes. So she is the woman behind the curtain, kind of like in The Wizard of Oz, when you pull back the curtain and you see an old man. No, this time you see a girl with green hair. No. But she's in the background doing all of the things that I can multitask, but when I'm speaking, it's so hard for me to multitask because I get distracted and then I can't remember where I am in the sermon. So she does all the stuff behind the scenes that make it possible for us to do the service, including answering people who say hi, good morning, hello, which is our preferred way that you say hi to us. Let us know that you're here. When I'm in a facility, I can look out and see the shining faces beaming back at me. But here I get a number. I don't even get names. And so, yes, if you would just please say hi, good morning, hello, however you want to greet us. And if you stop by later, just say hi. Let us know that you have been here. And Faith will answer you as me. I always go back and check and make sure there's nothing else that needs to be said. And it's only happened twice in 4 years because she knows me better than I know myself most of the time. But that's the way that we are able to do a real church service, is by having someone in the background doing all of that stuff. She's also our soloist. And today we're going to be doing a Stevie Wonder song, Superstition Ain't the Way. So thank you so much for being here, Faith. I couldn't do this without you. Love you. All right. Now the wise and powerful Oz, my partner in crime. Maybe there he is. Oz has been with me since 1998 when he was taking classes with me. He took all of his credit. It's overloaded? Oh, your mom was
asking. It just keeps on blinking in and out, but...
Oh, okay.
No, the computer itself.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, he took all of his classwork with me to become a licensed practitioner, and then was my board president for many, many years. He helped start this church, actually. You were in on the very beginning of the creation of Oasis. So then he moved away to Florida, and we lost the ability to have him in our service as a practitioner of the day. Well, when the pandemic came and we have all this technology now that we can do this, I asked him if he would be willing to be our practitioner of the day. And he's, of course, said yes. And he's been doing it ever since. One of these days, we hope to have another practitioner who can fill in from time to time. So he's not the only one, but the practitioner of the day does the invocation and benediction, and they're available at the end for our 1-minute miracle. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I could not do a church service unless I had a practitioner in waiting, so to speak. So thank you so much. Love you. All right. And I always like to mention our adjunct music team as well, because again, we couldn't do this without them. The first one is Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver, who was the first to ask us to do her music in the service. The second was Karen Drucker, who gifted us with her entire collection of CDs and songbooks and karaoke files so that we could do a real church service instead of just a talking head for an hour. I get bored with it. I'm pretty sure you'd get bored with it too. So we are so blessed to have this team that allows us to be able to have a regular church service, even though it's online. And then the last one is Albertina Giuffre, who was our soloist from like 2000 until right around the time that we started the service. We had a break, obviously, but she started out doing it in 2020 with us. But she needed to get some things done. And so she asked for a break. And so we gave her a break. And Faith signed up to be our soloist. And so Tina comes back for what she calls the crying season, Mother's Day, Father's Day, and Memorial Day. And then she's always here for Christmas. So that is our team that God has gifted me with, so that we could have a real service, and everything works very smoothly with this team. All right. So there is a watch party button that you can click on and invite your friends so that they can see what kind of service they can expect on a Sunday morning. And also, you can chat with them because it's a private chat. So you won't disrupt anybody else's experience, but you can answer their questions should they have any. So click on that watch party button, invite all your friends, and close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Allow the service to uplift and inspire you as we move into our centering song.
The presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
Oh, there he is.
God is always right here, right now. For even when the buffering doesn't catch up, knowing that God's presence is permeating all things. For God, if it is infinite and if it is eternal, must be right here, right now, in us, as us, and all around us. And I know that God's blessings don't stop even when the buffering does. And I know this is good and very good, and I let it be so. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Oz. for some reason he wouldn't actually, you couldn't hear him, or he wasn't moving as long as I was in the background. So I had to plop myself in there. That doesn't usually happen. All right. This next song, well, first of all, let me say, if you're here, please say hi, good morning, hello, however you want to greet us. When we're in a facility, I can look out and see the shining faces beaming back at me. Here I get a number. I don't even know who the audience is unless you do that. And if you like something that you hear, by all means, use that thumbs up. Let us know. If you love it, send us hearts, because we love to get love. And if something is really powerful that either I say or Faith sings or Oz prays, let us know by clicking on that wow button, because it's good feedback for us to let us know that, in fact, we are hitting home. So, all right, this next song is one from Fairy Elaine Silver, Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver, that she wrote when she was in practitioner training, called We Are All One.
We are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. I hear it and know it, my being. Spirit is all I am seeing. For God is all there is. Grateful am I to be living, open to what I have seen, honoring what I've been given, sharing now what I believe. I remember the oneness around me. I surrender to infinite light, knowing the love that's surrounding me is within me by day and night. And we are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. Yes, we are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it.
Yes, we are all one in it. If you are stopping by later, please say hi. Just let us know that you've been here, okay? Without further ado, I am going to turn this over to Faith to sing Superstition Ain't the Way by Stevie Wonder.
Thank you.
We are
Every superstition, wash your face again. Any other problem, do all that you can. Keeping it daydream. Keep me going strong. You don't want to save me. Said it's a song. When you believe in things that you don't understand, then you suffer. Superstition Ain. Baby superstition, nothing more to say. Baby superstition, the devil's on his way. I dream my whole baby, broke the looking glass. 7 years of devil, good things in the past. When you believe in things that you don't understand, then you suffer. Superstition in the way.
I can't tell because we can't hear the music.
You can't hear the music?
No, but it's okay. You
It's
so
at 30. I
Huh?
literally think my neighbors can hear it.
Really?
Yes, it's that loud. Wow. Whoa.
Yeah, so we would see you doing this, but we couldn't hear any music. So I couldn't tell when the song ended.
Well, so little pre, just so you all know, my Roku isn't working, so I have to buy a new one. So hopefully in the next week or two, we'll have music correctly again.
Okay. Thank you so much. You did a great job.
Thanks.
I just love technical difficulties, don't you? Oh, that was a Stevie Wonder song, and I don't know if he wrote that song before or after he joined the Agape Center for Center of International Truth, I think it's called. But you can tell by the words of those songs that song that the song itself is very representative of what we teach. If you believe in things you don't understand, then you suffer. And that's really the gist of superstition. That's his definition of superstition. Because if you're believing in things and you don't really understand the reason for your belief in them, then you do suffer. So I like doing that song. This weekend is Halloween. Well, Thursday is. And so I thought this would be a good time to talk about superstition because Halloween is basically based on superstition. How Halloween got started was on All Hallows Eve back in the old days. It was believed that the witches and goblins and demons came out that one night. And so we dressed up the little children in costumes so that the witches and goblins and demons wouldn't be able to find them. They would think that they were other witches, goblins, and demons, right? And so that's how Halloween got its start. But it also has, that whole superstitious thing happened even with brides. The reason we have bridesmaids costumes or dresses, I guess you would call them, during a wedding is because they wanted to disguise the bride. And by dressing up the bridesmaids, the demons would not know which one the bride was, so they wouldn't carry her away. But so when you think about Halloween, what you need to remember is it is based on superstition. And so nowadays, we dress them up and the kids think it's all about the candy. and getting to dress up, kind of crazy. But honestly, it's about being able to disguise our children so that the demons can't find them. Isn't that funny? And there's three different ways superstition is expressed in our lives. The first one is that saying the wrong thing is going to create a negative reality. The second, I'll talk a little bit about each one of them in a minute. The second one is that if you say something a certain way in a certain intonation at a certain time, that it has some kind of magic. The third way we experience superstition is by believing that something or someone has power over us. And so I want to talk about each one of those and what we need to do about that. So for instance, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where somebody has said something they didn't intend to say, and then they go blah, 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 to take it back. And that's kind of a superstitious thing, right? Yes, there are things that create, but luckily we have something like 400 thoughts a minute. And luckily not every single thought is creative. So if you make a mistake and blurt out something that you don't, you can always counteract it by saying the opposite. For instance, I can't afford that. No, I can afford it. I choose not to spend my money on that. And that negates any power that it might have had. There's a little bit of truth to each one of those things, and there's a little bit of not truth to those things. So they're kind of myths, basically. But so we don't need to be afraid that if I say the wrong thing, I'm going to create this terrible reality. These 400 thoughts a minute could not possibly all be creative on their own, right? What is most creative is the preponderance of our thoughts. In other words, what we think about on and on and on and on and on. Those are the thoughts that are the most creative. The thoughts that have an emotion behind them are even more creative. And so if I just happen to blurt out something, it has no power. I'm really glad that we don't create from all 400 thoughts a minute. I mean, think about it this way. I don't know if you do this, but I do this. I go, yeah, I really want that. Yeah, I'm not sure I want it. I think I really want that over there. No, that's really not it either. Maybe that thing over there. No, I don't know. Think about what would happen if every one of those thoughts was creative. I'd have this thing, then I wouldn't have it. Then I'd have this thing, and I wouldn't have it. Then I'd have this thing, and I wouldn't have it. And we need consistency in our reality. As human doings, we really, really need things to be consistent. And so when you think about what a reality like that would look like, it would be pretty awful, actually. So I'm glad that there's filters in place that keep every thought from being 100% creative on its own. If there's no emotion behind it, chances are it's not going to create. If you don't think about it over and over and over again, chances are it's not going to create, okay? So there's nothing for us to be superstitious about. The second superstitious way is when we believe that something said in a certain way at a certain time, said exactly right, all of those things, somehow that has magic or power. And what's really true is that words themselves, by themselves, again, do not have power. And so we need to be, words are powerful. I don't want to suggest that they're not. But what we need to be aware of is that if I just say a word, say, let's see, I've got something written here, transunion, that's not going to have any power. It's not going to have any magic, right? Because there's no connection to that word. I took this PhD program for a while. They stopped being able to provide me product, and I couldn't fly out to West Hollywood every week, so I had to get out of the PhD program. But I took this class, and it was called Master Values. And the whole class was based on the idea that there's values that we live our life by. But sometimes we don't understand the words, And my understanding of a word is different from your understanding of a word. So we really had to get clarity around what a word means to us. For instance, I used to work for this lady. Well, actually, I rented a suite from her, but and she was one of the first. She was in one of the first founding families in Colorado, in Denver. And we went to lunch and we were talking, and she said, I'm so poor. I only have $300,000 in the bank. And me, who has only $10 in the bank, is thinking, wow. And then I realized that prosperity and poverty had different meanings to us. She thought that $300,000 in the bank meant poverty. I thought that $300,000 in the bank would mean prosperity. For her, prosperity was several millions in the bank. For me, I'd be happy with, 300,000, or even, like $1 million would be great for me. But her family had multi millions. I think they were possibly billionaires. And so for her, that $300,000 was about poverty. And it doesn't matter how many zeros there are. What really matters is what my feeling, my perception of that word is. And so, like in the, back in the old days during the superstitious period of the world, they said things like abracadabra. If I said abracadabra, something would appear for me. If I said open sesame, a cave would open up and allow me in. And when we were kids, we watched all of these cartoons and everything, and listened to all these stories about Aladdin's lamp and, the flying and the magic carpet and all of that. And so we got this idea that saying something in a certain intonation and doing it at the exact right time would create some magic to happen, right? And so here we are as adults, and in the back of our mind, we still believe that. And so we get caught up in, like, for instance, chanting. I love chanting. I really love chanting. But doing it a certain number of times doesn't necessarily do anything, or saying it in the exact intonation, or sitting in a certain posture. All of those things do not necessarily, they are not necessarily powerful. When I do chanting, I just chant until I feel complete, because when I chant, there's a vibration that happens in my body that is what makes me feel calm and I feel good. And so I know when I'm complete with that. But the Hindus and Buddhists, they use the mala beads. That's why I like the mala beads so much, because there's 108 beads on there, and so they can count off their mantras. Well, when I chant, I don't even use the mala beads for that. But I do try to chant until I know that I've done enough that my body feels the chant. Have you ever listened to Gregorian chants? They're so beautiful. The harmonies that they develop in this intonation just changes the entire atmosphere of the room. And it's powerful, but not in the way that it has power over us, right? It's not going to make me go out and do something I wouldn't normally do. And likewise, affirmations are another one, because, years ago, I ran into this writer named Sandra Ray, and she suggested that you do affirmations in the first, second, and third tense. So you say, I am now in perfect health. She is now in perfect health. You are now in perfect health. And then that was on the left side, and you would do those, I think it was 25 times each. And then on the right side, you would record anything that actually came up for you about it, meaning the subjective material that's keeping you from that affirmation. Then you would reword it. Much later on, I took a workshop where we were doing that, where we were like saying the affirmation or writing the affirmation and then writing next to it what came up about it. And we all have this subjective material that keeps us from being able to create. And so affirmations are only as powerful as our subjective mind will allow them to be. And the reason we do affirmations, there's two reasons really. One is that the mind does not know the difference between fact and fiction. And so if we can convince the mind that that is true, then it manifests, right? For instance, if you go to a movie and it's a sad movie and you start to cry, you know that that person is fiction, or that this is a fictional story, and that it has no basis in your reality at all. Even if it's a true story, it's about someone else. But somehow or other, we cry, or we get sad, or we, go to an action movie and our body fills with adrenaline because of it. And so we start, feeling the effects of it, even though we know that might be fiction, right? So the mind works the same way. It doesn't matter whether it's fact or fiction, but if we're doing affirmations, we are convincing the mind that that is in truth fact, okay? The second reason that we do affirmations is because repetition builds neural pathways. When my brother had a stroke in 2000, it started in the left brain, crossed over the midbrain, and over into the right brain, and so he lost his ability to speak. And we had this really good friend named Dr. Margaret Stannard, who had sought to become a doctor, and she was one class away from earning her MD, and decided she didn't want to be a doctor after all. So she went into speech pathology, and she was one of a handful of people across the world that would be called in to consult in brain injuries. And so she came as a favor to us and looked over his MRIs, and she began to talk about how the neural pathways had been damaged and how we can recreate those neural pathways in the right side of the brain to take over functionality of the left brain. And she started talking about repetition and how important repetition is. She said, when you're first born, your brain is very smooth, and through repetition, these deep grooves get created. And because those deep grooves are created, then you have access to the neural pathways. And I had this major aha, and I was like, oh, that's why affirmations work. And she said, absolutely correct. And so I started thinking about that. As I teach affirmations, I always tell that story because it's true. If I repeat it, not that 100 is a magic number, trust me, it isn't a magic number, but it's a goal that we set for 100 a day, which is why the mala beads, again, are important. 108 beads means you're doing 108 affirmations a day. And if you get the bracelets, they're 54 beads, but you can use those twice. But so the reason that we're doing the affirmations is because, again, we want to have access to those neural pathways quickly. If we do, we are creating the pathways that allow that to become our reality. Just much like when you have a brain injury on the left side, you can create those neural pathways in the right side to take over the functionality of the left brain. So when we're doing our affirmations, what we're basically doing, I don't know if you remember when you first started driving a car, but you were like, I got to look in the mirror. I got to, your brain is overloaded with all the details that you have to keep track of: your feet, where your hands are, the steering wheel, what's happening in this mirror, what's happening in that mirror, and, and before long, it's almost, you almost feel like you can't do it because it's so overwhelming. And then as you learn to drive, and you drive more and more and more, you begin to realize that all of that stuff doesn't mean anything, and that you are only supposed to be really focusing on what's happening on the road and where you're going and what other people are doing. But what that becomes possible because we have created the deeper grooves in the brain that allow the neural pathways to the synapses to fire quickly. And we have ready access because we've created those neural pathways. So what's happening when we do affirmations is much the same. When you start doing an affirmation, you might feel like, oh, this is crazy. It feels awkward or whatever. But after you do a certain number of repetitions, and I'm not saying it'll happen in one day, but you want to keep doing it so that you are creating those grooves. But what begins to happen is you begin to see evidence of that reality that you've created, little bits and pieces of it at first, and then it just becomes the truth about you. And so when we talk about what we're saying and why we're saying it and how much power it has, it's important for us to recognize that the words themselves don't have any power, especially not to this. The same words are not going to be as powerful for anyone else. Almost every time I have a beginner class, I have someone who says, is there a perfect spiritual mind treatment that I can memorize? We call our form of prayer, our affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment, because we are treating our consciousness, our mind, to vibrate at the frequency that God vibrates at. So for instance, love. God knows nothing, absolutely nothing about hatred. God only knows love, and we're made of God, right? We're made of the God stuff. And so because of that, that is not our natural state. Hatred is not our natural state. Love is our natural state. And so as we are moving through the world, and we are doing our spiritual mind treatments, we are doing that, and the affirmations too, we are doing that by wording that means something to us. So no, there's not a perfect spiritual mind treatment out there that someone can memorize, and it will be just as effective for me as it is for them, right? There is a spiritual mind treatment in the textbook. That was Dr. Ernest Holmes' spiritual mind treatment. And those words are effective for him. Now, those of you who've seen the textbook really understand when I say that his words are not words that you and I use on a regular basis. So it's really important for us to develop our own spiritual mind treatment using words that have power for us, right? That's the only way we're going to change our consciousness, is if we can use words of power that we resonate with, that stir inside, kind of like when I do my chanting. It's the same kind of thing. We spend a lot of time centering in the first 2 steps of our spiritual mind treatment, so that by the time we get to the realization step, which is basically an affirmation, our mind is ready to receive that information as truth, right? And so all of that, the reason I'm saying all of what I just said is because there is no word of power that every single person can use that is going to be as effective. So we need to develop our own languaging, pretty much. I know that prosperity doesn't mean the same thing to me as it did to my friend. I know that love doesn't mean the same thing to everyone either. And there's various forms of love, which we're going to talk about in February. But because there's various forms of love, I resonate with one form of love while someone else might resonate with a different form of love. And of course, there's different forms of love between friends and between family and between significant others and between us and our pets. I don't like to call them pets, actually. I like animal companions. But the word love has so many different things about it that we need to recognize. And so when I'm using the word love, I need to know the context in which I'm using it for it to be powerful for me, right? Prosperity, love, health, all of those things are different depending on the person. And so that second way that superstition comes into our life is about recognizing and understanding that words of themselves have no power, and that certain intonations are not going to give us more power than someone else just because we intone them a certain way, okay? The only reason, like I say, when I do chants, the only reason I do that is not to have power, but is to feel that vibration within me that feels so good. Another one is this friend of mine, in the school ministry, we had a 3-year program. It took me 6 years to get through it, but we had a 3-year program. And this friend of mine used to come up from Colorado Springs 4 times a week for 3 years. And a lot of times there was snow and ice on the freeway and whatever. And so she would say, wherever I go, God goes before me, preparing the way and keeping me safe from harm. Were there magic to those words? No. Was there magic to those words to her? Yes. And I've actually adopted that, because when I go over the Sun Bridge to get to Sarasota, I panic a little bit. I don't know what it is about, seeing that straight up bridge and recognizing that it comes down like that. It's not as high as it looks when you're approaching it. And it certainly isn't as scary as it seems. But for some reason, something in me starts to panic. So I always start saying, Wherever I go, God goes before me, preparing the way and keeping me safe from harm. But the other thing she said is that in 3 years, she never had an accident either. And so she was talking about one night that she started to skid on the ice, and she closed her eyes, which I don't recommend, but she closed her eyes and began to say, God, 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 God. And when she opened her eyes, she was on the side of the road, but nobody was around. And there were like tons of cars before that. And she really felt like her focus on God, her singular focus on God, is what got her through that safely. So it's not the word itself as much as it is what we feel when we're using the word. So if I'm in a panic state and I go, God, 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 it calms me. It doesn't have any power or influence in the rest of the world. It only has power and influence within me, because then I'm calm. I'm at peace. And the same thing with the wherever I go, God goes before me, preparing the way and keeping me safe from harm. I always start out with that on that sun bridge. And by the time I get through it, I'm like, oh, that was nothing. But I want us to become aware of those times when we need to use a word, not because it has any power over the rest of the world, but because it has the power to calm us. Which leads me to the third thing, which is believing that something or someone has power over us. Someone can only have power over us if we give our power away. And we do that pretty regularly. I don't know why we do that as human doings. Hi, Fred, Kathy, Marlene, Joanne, Lynn. It's 11:11, the magic time. I don't know why exactly we do that, but we tend to give our power away to other people. For instance, if I get in an argument with somebody, they walk away, and what am I doing? In my mind, I'm going over and over and over it. And I'm like, I should have said this, or when he said that, that really made me mad, or when she did that, I just really wanted to strangle her, and we're like rehashing the whole thing. So who is suffering from that? Not the other person. It's us, and we have given our power away to that other person. So years ago, I ran into the workings of Carolyn Mace. And she was talking about calling your spirit back, how important it is to call our spirit back, because we give a piece of ourselves, we leave a piece of ourselves with that other person. And so she went into the river and did it the Native American way, where she stood in the river and called her spirit back. So I thought, oh, okay, this is a great way to do visioning. I'm going to vision on what must I do to call my spirit back? Well, I thought it would be swimming with the dolphins or standing in the river, or, it had to do with a body of water, or, some wonderful experience. No, open a church. And that's a whole other story that I will tell again someday. But needless to say, that was not what I expected. But we have to call our spirit back from the other people that we have left parts of ourselves with, so that we are whole and complete again. Carlos Castaneda talks about that in his book, about how we have holes in our soul or our spirit because someone has wounded us. And that wound is open, open to the world. And it stands there open so that someone who wants to claim power over us can just move right in there and take advantage of the fact that we have that hole in our soul. And so the way that we fix that is by calling your spirit back. He doesn't use those exact words, but that's basically what he's talking about. Going and doing visioning on the top of a mountain, where you're calling in the spirit guides. And what you're doing is you're asking for healing of those holes. Well, that's basically the same thing that Carolyn Mace was doing. It didn't quite work the way I wanted it to, but yes, in fact, I have called back the parts of myself that I have left behind at the other churches. So opening a church was the correct prescription for me, I guess. We give our power away with events. If somebody dies in a car crash, or, we avoid certain circumstances. When I first met Lynn, he had been dating this woman who had gotten in a car accident on a street corner, and she did everything she could to avoid that street corner the rest of her life, because somehow that street corner had the power to upset her, had the power over her. And so we need to make sure that events do not have the power that we've given them to take us over, right? So the object of all of that is to relieve yourself of the idea that that event or that place or that person or anything has any power over us. Again, we're made in the image of and likeness of God because we're made of the stuff of God. And so nothing, nobody, not any certain circumstance could have any power over God, right? And so it cannot have any power over us. The only power that anything has over us is that power which we have given it. And so in this moment, I'm asking you this week to be conscious of where you are superstitious about the good news that you tell, and be conscious of where you think words have power, and being more clear about the words that you're using because you want them to be powerful for you, but also releasing the notion that any person, place, or thing has any power over us. Let's have a prayer. Right now, I just acknowledge the infinite power, the infinite presence of God. I turn my awareness to it, knowing that there exists beyond my human understanding a powerful presence in the universe, and that is God. 100% love, 100% prosperity, 100% health and wellness, 100% present and available. And that is where I find myself, in the midst of God, my very essence, my very life, my very being. It is who and what I am. And every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by that ancient wisdom of the ages that flows through me, and it flows through all of life. That is the truth of who I am. I know that same truth to be so for the team that God has provided me. For that same wisdom of the ages, that ancient wisdom of the ages flows through that team, my team, our team, God's team. The same that it flows through all of life. And every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by that. For we are all one in it. I know that same truth to be so for everyone who's watching this, either in real time or later on. Because there's no place where one person leaves off and the other begins. There's only the one. And that ancient wisdom of the ages that flows through me and flows through my team also flows through all of us. Through everything and everyone. So I bless this week with an awareness of not only that power flowing through us, but the power of our words, or the non-power of our words, to have any power over us. Where we recognize that words are just words. They only have the power that we give to them. Experiences are only experiences. They only have the power that we give to them. And our experiences with people are only experiences with people. And they only have the power that we give to them. So this week, I claim back all of the power that flows with us, in us, through us, around us. I claim that back for each individual here today. As I claim it for every name that is in the ministry of prayer, because I do know that whatever challenge they are experiencing, God is the answer. I pull back the veil now, revealing that truth and claiming for them in their name, they're good. I give thanks for this moment. My heart fills with gratitude that this is so and done, and to be of service in this way. And so I just let it be who it is. Amen. There we go. Sorry about that. All of a sudden we couldn't hear Faith, so we had that pre-recorded at least, so we could do that. Right now is our opportunity to receive your gifts, tithes, and offerings, and your opportunity to share your gratitude for that which you have received in the physical realm, or perhaps that which you have created in the mind of God and have not yet seen in the physical realm. You need to get down? Okay. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to go with me to www.oasiscsl.org and say the offering affirmation with me. It's about 2/3 down the page. And then underneath that is the Contribute Now button. And so let me talk real quickly about Contribute Now, because when we're in a facility, you're contributing to rent and utilities and all of those things. Here, because we don't have a facility, we pay Faith for her time and we market to the world, because our vision is a healed world globally. And our mission to get to that vision is by healing the world one person at a time. But we have to reach the world in order to do that. We have people from Germany, Singapore, Philippines, India, England, and Holland already joining us, but we'd like to enlarge that to the entire world. So when you're contributing, what you're doing is you're contributing to our mission to get to our vision. Okay? All right, go with me now, whether you're in real time or later on, to www.oasiscsl.org and say this offering affirmation with me. This perfect gift is spirit in form, circulating and blessing all it touches. Freely I give, and joy generously I receive, and so it is. Hit that contribute now button and help us with our mission to get to our vision. Okay. We have this wonderful team of licensed practitioners from coast to coast that serve our church in 3 different ways. The first way is that they will pray on any prayer requests every day for a week. So if you would like prayer for something, put in the comment section what you would like prayer for. If you don't want it to be public, you can always DM Faith, and she will make sure that our God Squad, which is what I like to call our licensed practitioners, I like that visual of them coming in the room and taking charge. Anyway, she will make sure the God Squad gets that prayer request, and they will pray on those every day for a week. And the second way that they serve our church is by spiritual guidance sessions by appointment for a fee. Now, I don't get involved in any of that. You're going to reach out to them, let them know you would like a spiritual guidance session, and they will let you know how to pay for it. Each practitioner has their own business, so I don't get involved. Some of them use PayPal, some of them use Venmo, some Cash App, some Wise, some Zelle, but it's up to them. I don't get involved in that. Anyway, you let them know you want a spiritual guidance session by Messenger, and they will tell you how to pay for it. Once it's paid for, they will reach out to you by video chat at the appointed time for your session. The third way that our practitioners serve the church is what Oz does every week, and that is the practitioner of the day, meaning that he's available. Well, first of all, he does the invocation and benediction, and then he's available at the end for our 1-minute miracle. That is not a time for counseling or spiritual guidance. It is only a time where you can share with him whatever you're experiencing, and he will stop, drop, and pray with you right then and there. So take advantage of these loving services that our practitioners provide. Having a practitioner it is such a wonderful thing. I always have my own practitioners, and I have the ones that serve my church as well. All of them guide me along my pathway, and I know they would help you as well. All right, the other one is Brooks and Bailey. Let me get to that. This is the only time I have to do things myself. Otherwise, Faith does everything. Brooks and Bailey is this couple of ladies that does really, really beautiful jewelry. And all of the proceeds go to Rocky Mountain Lab Rescue. You can reach them through Brooks and Bailey 0307 at Gmail. But you can also get them on their Facebook page. And anytime they're going to be at an event, have a booth, I always like to share that on my page. That's where I get my mala beads. These are amethyst. They're $60, but they have all kinds of gemstones, $30 and up. And I don't remember how much the bracelets are. I think they're $20 or $25. So they're reasonable, is my point. And so definitely check out these two ladies and their jewelry, because I know you're going to love it. Then we have Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver. We like to support those who support us. So her website, for some reason, she can't change the website to reflect how to pay for it. So she travels around the country singing and carries the CDs in her car. So go to her website, figure out which CD you would like, and then just email her. Her email address is on the website, and she'll tell you how to pay for it. Once it's paid for, she will send it right away. She's very good about that. The second one is Karen Drucker, and we use a lot of Karen Drucker's music in our service. And so if you've been liking what you've been hearing, go to her website. Her website does work, so you can buy it by the song, the karaoke file, the CD, a songbook that some of the songs have American Sign Language, so you can learn how to do that. And but definitely, you know, we like to support those who support us. And these two ladies have made it possible for us to have an actual church service. So we really appreciate them. So go check out their websites. And then, of course, check out our website. At the moment, I know it's out of date. Things have conspired against us getting it done over the last couple of about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. But we are working on it. That's www.oasiscsl.org. There you're going to find pictures of picnics and events at our church. That way you can get to know your spiritual family. There are some video sermons on there and some audio ones, but they're out of date. So if you want to see sermons that we've been doing recently, you can go to YouTube for the videos, and any audio files that we've had prior to us going live here are on SoundCloud, and both of those are under S. Tucker. So check those out. I'm going to turn this over to Oz right now.
Everything should be working.
I don't see a screen, but I hear your voice, so that should work.
Okay. Well, I know right here, right now, with or without video, that God's presence is still right here, right now, wherever we are, whenever we are. Despite the technical glitches, God continues on with full power and full blessings for each and every one involved. I give thanks for this, and I let it be so. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you so much, Oz. We were blessed to have you with us. I know there's 1,000 things you could be doing on a Sunday morning. We were glad you were here with us today. Join us next week and every week at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time. Until then, stay safe. We love you. Bye.